Our first featured talk of the day comes from a voice bringing both continental insight and strategic depth to the world of brand communications. Joining us from Ghana, Maukeni Ribeiro is a brand communication strategist whose work sits at the intersection of authenticity, value, and visibility. Please join me in welcoming Maukeni Ribeiro.
Good morning, Namibia. You have to match the energy. I'm told you're one of the top tourism countries in the continent, so you have to make me feel welcome. Good morning, Namibia. It is a pleasure to be here today, and I don't know why he's showing you my face. Can we go to the very beginning? It's a pleasure to be here today, and I was trying to avoid dancing, and so I chose an instrumental to come on stage. It looked like it worked, so thank you for complying. Today I'm speaking on the topic Seen, Heard, Paid. Are we on cue? Can we go to the beginning, please? The very beginning. All right. Seen, Heard, Paid, the heart of authentic marketing. And I'm not sure why they chose me to lead this conversation, because I wanted to hear what you had to say in the room and then come and speak. But I like this as well, because it allows me to set the tone and set the agenda in a way that I hope will be insightful. Over the next 45 minutes, I believe you have to look at me and listen to me. But I'm hoping that this would be a conversation that inspires everyone in the room to have to rethink how they approach marketing from different perspectives. All right. Does this work? Fantastic stuff. So when I got the invitation, I did what every branding strategist would do. I did my research. What is it? What do you think when you hear Namibia? And I discovered, okay. And when I came, I understood why. I told the gentleman who picked me up from the airport that your clouds look like they were painted, like literally painted by somebody. They're beautiful, and I can't get over them, but I understand why everyone comes to here. And because it's a beautiful, for want of a better word, it's a beautiful backdrop for whatever it is you're trying to tell. Then I noticed that because of the way you take care of nature, Then I noticed that because of the way you take care of nature, BBC comes here, National Geographic comes here, Netflix comes here, Netflix shoots here. Everyone is here, and I just said you were mentioned as top global destination for 2026, which is fantastic. Now I hear you've recently discovered oil, so now everyone is here as well. You guys are you're hotcakes, as we say in Ghana. So the question is, obviously the world is already here. But when the world story is being told, is Namibia part of that story? Is Namibia owning the story that is being told about here? And that's the conversation I came to have today. The reason why I qualify to tell you about this is because over the last 10 years, I've been helping brands, professionals, companies, and institutions across Africa to build the architecture that they need to be seen, heard, and paid. And this is something you'd hear throughout our conversation. Seen, heard, and paid. Because it's one thing to be seen, it's a completely different thing to be heard, and it's an entirely different thing to be paid at the level that you deserve. And so we will have that conversation. I note that because of the audience in the room, there are going to be multiple people. We have creators in the room, am I correct? Can I see some creators? Those, fantastic. The TikTokers, the YouTubers, I see you. Then there are the companies as well. Then there are people from government. Well, some of them are still here. But the point is, at different levels, we all desire to be seen, heard, and paid in some capacity. And so we'll have this conversation regarding that. So just a quick round through the room. How many of you consider yourselves visible in your line of work? Show of hands. People know me. Oh, the people I work with know me. I'm known in my industry. Guys, it's a safe space. I'm known in my industry, visible. Okay. How many of you who consider yourselves visible consider yourselves chosen? Like in a situation, you'll be the one who's chosen. Fantastic. I love it for you guys. But I expected that. I expected that we would have a lot more people saying, hi, people know me, I'm visible, I'm seen. But when it's time to make a choice, I'm not always the first person. And that's what we're going to discuss. So I was told to tie this to authentic marketing. And I'd like to start by saying that authentic marketing is not showing people who you are. I know that it's, these days we hear things like, it's when you do a story time on TikTok that you go viral. And people go like, oh my God, I can relate to that. She's being vulnerable. That's my story. Or when, a company does something that shows you something behind the scenes. And then you think, oh my God, I can relate to that. I like that. While that may seem like authentic marketing, my definition of authentic marketing is making sure that who you are is what people remember when they need to make a choice. The person that you say you are, people must remember that when it is time to make a choice. Because that identity aligns with a gap that they have, and then they can make that choice. We've all been hired for something that we know we didn't qualify for, right? Guys, is it just me? Okay. So sometimes you feel, okay, there's a gap between expectation and reality. But what you want at every point in time is to make sure that who I am matches exactly what the gap is, and they can remember that and make the choice to pick me when it's time. So that's my definition of authentic marketing. And we'll start by going through the framework that I said works for everybody. Being seen. I define that as strategic placement. Very strategic. Being visible to the right people in the right context. Because let's be honest today, when I say seen or I say visible, we hear viral, we hear reach, we hear followers, we hear, awards. The things that make people say, oh yeah, I know her, or I've heard of her, or I know this company. But being seen strategically that's the sweet point for me. I'd start by saying that visibility is not volume. So if you are a marketing officer in the room or a CMO in the room, I'm sure it feels like because the algorithm rewards us when we post more often, if you go, I think last week or so, Instagram gave me a notification and said, congratulations for posting every day this week. Yeah, they award you, they're happy when you do things like that. And then if you haven't posted for a while, you get a notification that says it's like your reach has dropped. And you can see it on your homepage somewhere. That is trying to encourage you to go back and post and be visible more and more. But I think everyone here knows that it's not necessarily about how often you are seen, how often you appear, how many people know your name. It is about the right people, the right context, before anything is being said. Because the creators in the room, I'm sure you have millions of people reaching you, but how many of them are choosing you when it's time to make a decision? How many of them are working with you? How many of them are hiring you? If there's a situation and the company needs to make a bid, are you the one that's chosen? Yes, you're visible. Yes, you sponsored that event. Yes, you did that. Yes, you did that. But are you the one who's chosen at any point in time? So there are a few traps of visibility. Creators tend to optimize for reach, so make sure that people can see me, my stats are going up, I have X number of followers, I posted this, and when I went live, 1,000 people joined me. That's all nice and good. But if it's not the right eyeballs, you are not necessarily in the space where you actually need to be. And as we keep going through this, as I keep breaking it down, I'm hoping that if you identify yourself in any of those, you just note, this is something I need to work on when I leave here. Then we go to the corporates. It's very easy to invest in presence, nice branding, the company employees are well branded and things like that. But the real determination is in the rooms where the decisions are being made, is your name being mentioned? When people graduate from school, do they want to work for you? Because that's one of the ways that you can even position yourself as a corporate. Is that something that makes people think, oh, I'd love to work for this company because of how they're positioned, because of how they come across to me, because of the impression I've created about the content that they put out. Again, strategic placement. It's very easy to, post happy hour, pizza on Fridays as employees. But if that's not what your dream employees are looking for, chances are that that's not what's going to get their attention. Maybe it's maternity leave that they want. Perhaps it's, do you guys work from home in Namibia? Do you do remote working? Maybe it's remote working that they want, guys. Just saying. And then when it comes to the nation, it's very easy to be in the frame. When the world leaders are gathering, it's very easy to see we're all in the picture. Everyone stands very nicely and we take the picture. But when the narrative is being pushed, when the decisions are being made, are you a country that is in that narrative? That's the weight of being seen. Do they pause and say, let's hear what Rwanda has to say. Let's hear what Namibia has to say. Does Ghana have anything to say? Those are the kind of questions that let you know I am actually being seen. Not necessarily I'm in the picture. I was on the committee. I was part of the group. Was your opinion considered? Is whatever you say, does that hold enough weight for people to say, okay? It makes them at least pause and consider. Okay, I was afraid I was lost. So before we move to being heard, my whole thing is being seen can definitely get you in the room. Maybe you have the right reach, you have the numbers, you're positioned with the right people. But that's not enough. It's one thing to be seen, and it's another thing to be heard. And you can enter the room, but being heard is what determines how long you stay in that room. And we'll get into that. I consider being heard narrative authority. What do you say you are? Do people say that same thing about you? Because it's very easy to be loud. I'm the loudest person in this room at this moment. But what matters is once I leave, what I have said about myself, is that what you will also say? That's how I know the narrative has landed. That's how I know that you have heard me. Because you can look at me for the next 45 minutes and clap when I leave, but if I'm not able to control what you say about me by the time you have spent with me, I haven't done well in owning that narrative. So who's authoring your story? Because at every point in time, a story is being told. It can either be your competitors that are telling the story, it can be your haters that are telling the story, it can be a rival that is telling the story. It can be anybody, but make sure that you are also telling the story. Whether you're a creator, whether you're a corporate, whether you're a country, tell your story. Every single person must tell their story. So let me be honest, that's not going to stop people from talking about you. It's not going to stop them. But in this world of AI and screenshots and viral news, you'd realize that if you've done the work of building a narrative, when something happens, people will pause before they pass judgment, especially if it departs from what you have fed them or the while that they've encountered you. So ask yourself, if a crisis breaks today, whether for your personal brand or your company brand or for the nation, would you have people say, no, that's a mistake. That didn't happen. or that there must be some explanation, or let's see what we can do about it? Or would people say, I always knew that this was her, this is the real her, she was, in the end, we would always know that it's one thing to put out a story, and it takes 10 times more work to correct a wrong narrative. So put out your story. Make sure that you are owning that narrative in a way that when someone considers it, they think, okay, this is different from what I encountered. So there must be some sort of mismatch. Give them reason to pause rather than to just swallow whatever it is that is being said at any point in time, especially if it doesn't fit into your narrative. All right. So, creators in the room, do you think your audience can describe you in one sentence? And will that description be something that aligns with you? That's something you should ask yourself. Oh, they know me. I'm the one who posts about, should I say, lifestyle content, fashion, makeup. Is that what you want them to say about you? If that's it, then fantastic, great job. But if it isn't, then it gives you room to pause. What narrative am I pushing out with the content that I'm putting out at any point in time? Then if you're a corporate, I'm sure, are there any CMOs or anyone who's in charge of corporate communication, crisis communication? Anyone like that here? No matter how much you prepare, you know that the crisis will hit you at some point. And when it does, even your comms plan may not save you. But the truth is, do you have a narrative that can hold while you fix the crisis? Do you have a narrative that can overcome the crisis? Sometimes, yes, it would hit you and you would fall flat. But if you have the narrative infrastructure, chances are that you might bounce back. But most of the time, we focus on, we post the content, what's going viral, what are the numbers, who is looking at us, this company did this dance challenge, so everybody come and let's do the dance challenge and also post. When the crisis hits, the dance challenge is not going to save you. So make sure that the narrative infrastructure holds for your company when there's a crisis. Then the nation. We're in Namibia, so obviously I'm going to talk about you. We've said Netflix comes to shoot here. We've said National Geographic comes to shoot here. Everyone is here. But are you a backdrop for their content? When people look at the content, do they think, oh, this was shot in Namibia? Or do they think, oh, that's a really nice car advert? Most of the time, I'm sure it's just the car advert. It doesn't come up. Namibia doesn't come up in the footprint. If you want to, if you look through the credits when they are rolling, you see it somewhere there. But that's not their story to tell. That's Namibia's story to tell. And interestingly, in today's world, the story of the government's, the national story, the government's infrastructure, the national brand, is not just being told by the government. Every single Namibian in this room, every single person who encounters a Namibian, Namibian culture as well, is part of those telling that story. So at a certain point, the kind of content that you put out as a content creator, as a lifestyle influencer, as a blogger, do you have vloggers in Ghana, in Namibia? Like people who actively just vlog to tell you what's going on in their lives. Even they are telling the story about Namibia. It's no longer just the government. So at this point, the question should be, is that story being told by us as a nation? Are we telling the story of, yes, we have the clouds that look like they're painted, according to Kenny. We are the ones who have the beautiful landscape. We are the ones who have this, we have that. We just have oil. We have the first female president. We have this, we have that. Tell that story. Because when the decisions are being made, it's the narrative that you have authored that will determine who gets into that room. Whether or not Namibia gets that seat at that table to make those kind of decisions. Then we are going towards paid. So we've talked about being seen. We talked about being heard. Being heard builds the reputation because at that point we have the narrative in our heads. People are saying the right things about you. People are having the right impressions about your capabilities. The story is aligning with what you want it to align with. But when the reputation compounds, that's when you get paid. Everyone here who has applied for a job knows that the amount of money that they told you they would pay you was based on how you had positioned yourself. True or false? Even when they ask you things like, how much did your former employer pay you? They know if I really want her, I can't offer her what her former employer paid her plus extra. I must make a good offer. So the person who is getting paid is the one whose reputation has compounded. The men in the room who want to take a lady out, if you look at the way she's dressed, it determines where you take her. Am I lying? Guys, am I lying? Ladies in the room, you look at the way he's dressed before you determine whether or not you respond to his message. Am I lying? So you see, the reputation is being built, whether you realize it or not. And as it compounds, that is what determines whether or not you get paid. And paid is not just in terms of money, but value exchange. So being compensated at the level that your brand commands. So if you have done the work of being seen, you've done the work of being heard, I guarantee you'll get to the point where you're being paid. And I'd like to start by saying on the chapter of being paid that underpayment is a positioning failure. If you feel underpaid, it's because you're doing something wrong with positioning. It's not because the market has failed. Because I guarantee you that there's a price that everyone is willing to pay for the positioning they see when they encounter your product or your service or your person. That rate conversion, it usually starts in the positioning room when no one is looking, when you're doing the work of being seen, you're doing the work of being heard. That's where the rate is established in their heads. Not when you get to the point where you say, I will take 5,000 Namibian dollars. By that point, they already have a number in their heads based on everything they've seen you present in the category of being seen, in the category of being heard, before you get to being paid. So every single time you cut your comms investment, you are quietly agreeing to pay less. And I'm talking about, again, creators, corporates, and nations. So for those of you who are here who work in the marketing department, when you go back, you can tell Tim that I said he should not cut your comms investment. He should increase it so that you can guarantee that you'll be paid more in the coming years. The value is always there. The value is always there. The value that you carry is always there. But the problem is perhaps not positioning yourself to be seen as carrying that value. So let's talk about creators. The creators in the room have a pain point that I have, well, the creators in Ghana also have. You get millions of views, rake in millions of views, have numbers of followers, but most of the platforms are not monetized to pay you for the views that you get. Am I correct? And while that is frustrating, that's not the end of the story. Because you see, that is a structural problem. That is a problem that my government is also fighting because we keep tweeting at them and saying we want to get paid for tweeting, we want to get paid for all the things that we are doing. That is a structural problem that can be solved. But as a creator, you still have the opportunity to make sure that you position your brand in a way that nobody can deny you the opportunities that you need, whether it's from the corporates or from fellow creators, even from the nation. The nation should get to a point where we want someone to tell the country story authentically in a way that does not feel like it's being tampered with. Your name should pop up. And if you do the brand positioning well, it gives you speaking opportunities, it gives you training opportunities, it gives you other streams of income. You can sell products, you can sell masterclasses, you can sell events. It's no longer about just whether or not TikTok is paying. While that is a painful thing, it's not the end of the story. So you have an opportunity to still position your brand even beyond the direct money that comes to you. To get to a point where you can set the rate, you can decide who does what, you can decide who collaborates with you because of the positioning you've built. Then for the corporates, the pricing game is a perception game. Everybody in the room knows someone who would pay, should I say, maybe $50 for a pair of shoes. And you know someone who will pay $2,000 for a pair of shoes. Same pair of shoes. Pricing game, perception game. I need to have a perception to place that value on that product, on that service at any point in time. And that perception you build brick by brick, day by day through brand investment. You must think about it. What do I need to do to position myself in the minds of the people I need to see me to exchange value for it? Then we go to the nation. Investment flows to countries whose brands command confidence. What kind of countries do you think that is? Any country? Anyone in the room? No, fantastic, love it. Anyone else? Any other country that you think commands confidence? South Africa. Nigeria, okay. Anyone else? Are you saying that because I'm on stage? But you see, at every point in time, we know the superpowers of Africa. And so when there's a conversation being had, the money goes there. The opportunity goes there. It's not just about who has the most resources. It's not about who has the most beautiful skies, which at this point I think is Namibia. But it's about the brand that commands confidence. So somewhere under your coast, off your coastline, there are barrels of oil that is waiting to be discovered. They were always there. I don't think like one day someone did this and then they appeared. They've been there all this while. The geology didn't change, nothing happened. The only thing that changed is that someone decided to look deliberately at the right place, at the right time, with the right tools. The same thing applies to your brand. The value is there. Whether it's your personal brand, your corporate brand, your nation's brand, whatever it is, the value is there. The question is whether or not you have built the infrastructure to bring it to the surface, to be chosen. If you remember at the beginning, we talked about being chosen, being preferred. That's where we want to get to. The building blocks of being seen, being heard, being paid, lead you to the point where you are chosen. You're chosen deliberately, strategically, on your own terms. So, given everything that I've said, I want you to be able to identify what it looks like to be chosen. So that when I leave you and I go back to Ghana and you're at the point where you are seeing your brand, you can say, okay, that's what Kenny spoke about, we're there. If you're a creator, you should get to the point where brands approach you. And they approach you, the kind of brands you want to approach you. Because we all know creators are approached by brands that they don't necessarily align with, but it pays the bills, so why not? But you get to a point where the brands I want to approach me. You get to the point where you set the rate. You get to the point where the partnerships that you align with, they reflect your positioning, not just how many people follow you, how many people would like a post, how much reach you have at any point in time. Your audience trusts your recommendations because they trust you. You get to the point where you can say, you should wear this because I wear it. You should use the skin product because I use it. And without any questions asked, they will, because you have built the building blocks of being seen, being heard, and being paid. Then when it comes to corporates, clients choose you without a price war. They don't think, okay, but these people have it $50 cheaper, so I'm going to go there. But they choose you because you are the one that represents what they feel has the solution that they need at any point in time. Talent wants to work for you. They say, I want to apply to work here. When you put out an application on LinkedIn, there should be 1,000 people applying, 100 people applying within maybe 24 hours, because you've positioned your company as a place that people want to work in. Top employer. Those kind of things they don't magically appear. They come from building the blocks of being seen, being heard, and being paid. Partners seek you out. They come, let's work on this together. Let's do this together. Your brand becomes an asset that outlasts any form of campaign, any form of scandal. Because let's be honest, scandals will come. Some of them will come with notice. Some of them will come without notice. Some of them would have a bomb that explodes when you think you're almost done. But if you've built that reputation, you've built that brand, it outlasts that scandal. Nations, the world tells your story in your own words. When they talk about Namibia, whatever they say, is it something that you yourselves as Namibians are proud to associate with? Does tourism grow because people feel like this is my place, this is a place I can connect to, this is a place I should come to, this is a place I should invest in, this is a place I should visit again and again? Or just because you've posted, visit Namibia? So once you get to the point where you realize that your brand is commanding a certain premium, then you know, yeah, it's working. You've clearly been chosen. Because I typically like to teach, I always leave people with an assignment. So this is your assignment. And I have tried to do it in such a way that you can screenshot it and do this before you leave here today. Because I imagine that over the next 3 days, everyone else is going to be telling you something, and I don't want you to forget it because it was the first one. So, wow, you're taking, I love it. You're taking screenshots. But do this, just ask yourself, the 3 places you are visible in currently, are those the right rooms you want to be visible in? If not, then you have a problem in terms of being seen. And that's where you start to work from. Then it comes to write your one sentence. If a stranger followed you for 6 months and they described your brand in one sentence, would it be what you want them to say? If it isn't, that's the gap you need to close. Because let's be honest, for all of us, it's a work in progress. But once you identify that gap, then you can start putting in the work to close it. The final thing for paying, name your price gap. Where do you think you're currently being priced below what your brand should command? Especially for personal brands, because most of the time you don't know what to price. No one is really giving you a rate card of what to price to speak or to do a campaign or to post one video or 2. But you know where you're currently being underpaid. That's where the positioning work begins. Because like we said at the beginning, being underpaid is a positioning problem. So if there's a money gap, then there's a positioning gap somewhere. All right. This is thank you in my local language. I have enjoyed talking to you. I've enjoyed watching you nod. I've enjoyed watching you learn. If you want to stay in touch with me, you can find me on all these social media platforms. I'm everywhere except Snapchat. So find me and let's have a chat. But it has been a pleasure. I have loved being here. And hopefully I'll come back again because your skies are beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maukeni.